Well, hello, I'm Nate Bean, and this is the Integrity Insider Minute, and I want to thank you for joining me today while I talk to you about brake calipers. A very common question that we are asked when someone calls here is they say, how much will it cost to have my brake pads and calipers replaced? And the standard answer we give is, why do you believe you need to have the calipers replaced? Because we have found that they rarely do need to be replaced. In rare instances, and that's usually because of neglect or environmental situations. So to kind of qualify that and to elaborate on that a little bit, we have run some reports out of our database over the last several years and found that only about 8% of the time that we do brakes are we actually replacing the calipers. Now there's many shops out there that tend to recommend calipers close to 80% of the time, would be a guess, but there's a few shops, I won't mention names, that tend to if we ask someone, why do you think you need calipers, they'll say, well, this place told me that I need calipers. And then we're quick to inform them that generally we've found that only about 8% of the time does that really need to happen. Usually we can just replace the brake pads, clean and lubricate the caliper slides, flush the brake fluid out, and you'll probably be in good shape for the long haul. What can you do to maintain your calipers so that they don't need to be replaced? Well, there's some things that are just out of your control. If you live in the Midwest or the East Coast, somewhere where they salt the roads a lot, you may just wind up having calipers that bind up a lot. A lot of rust occurs and the calipers just start to bind up, and probably in areas like that they have a much higher failure rate of calipers and needing to be replaced more often. If you're not in that type of climate, say you're living in the Seattle area like we are, where we get a lot of rain, but that doesn't cause a lot of rust, we find that the best thing you can do is every time you have the brake pads replaced, make sure you're not just slapping new pads on it, but make sure that the shop that's working on it for you is cleaning the calipers, lubricating the slides, the slide pins, inspecting all of the boots on the calipers, and making sure that everything is moving freely and smoothly. And then secondly, flush your brake fluid out every 30,000 miles or so. Brake fluid is a fluid that is what's called hygroscopic. Hygroscopic means that it absorbs moisture right out of the air. And as that happens, two things occur to the brake fluid. One, it will start to rust the components inside the brake system because now there's moisture in there. So we want to flush that out so that we don't develop any rust. And secondly, it reduces the boiling point. Brakes get hot when you operate them, and if your brake fluid generally has a very high boiling point, say 600 degrees, maybe more. However, if you start getting a lot of moisture, a lot of water in the brake fluid, which occurs naturally, then that brake fluid is going to have a lower boiling point, and it could be then that as you step on the brakes under heavy braking situations or long braking situations, the brakes are going to get really hot, and you may actually start to boil that brake fluid a little bit. You're actually boiling the water that's in there, and then you start getting airlock or brake pedal fade because you're not actually able to apply the brakes as well and effectively, or your pedal will get really soft and your brakes won't work as well. So there's two reasons to flush your brake fluid. So to avoid replacing your brake calipers, make sure that you have them cleaned and lubricated every time that you have the brakes replaced, generally 30 to 50,000 miles on most vehicles depending upon your driving conditions. And secondly, have the brake fluid flushed every 30 to 40,000 miles depending upon your climate. And brake fluid actually can be tested very simply using a brake test strip, which monitors the moisture content and the copper content in the brake fluid, which will determine whether it needs to be flushed. So hopefully that helps a little bit to understand caliper replacement, why it may not be as common as you may think, and things to think about. Most shops, at least certainly ours, if someone tells you need calipers, we're happy to give you a second opinion at no charge. Bring the vehicle into us, we'll check the brakes, let you know if it just needs pads or if the calipers should be done as well. No cost for that. Thanks for listening in. I'm Nate Bean with the Integrity Insider Minute, and look forward to talking to you again next time with more answers to more common questions that you may have about your vehicle. Thanks.